Dude, what? Dude. What? What? This is shit that we say about Trump. You're not supposed to admit it, dude.
And now to the guests that we've been talking about all morning. President Donald Trump. Mr. President, welcome. Thanks for calling in. Wish you could be here in person, but
we already talked. We already watched this. He said Mexicans have a genetic.
Elaine Chao was on yesterday, and I know she was.
Oh, wait. Okay, maybe it's
Elaine
longer.
Chao
Let's
was on yesterday, and I know. And now to the guests that we've been talking about all morning. President Donald Trump. Mr. President, welcome. Thanks for calling in. Wish you could be here in person, but we'll do this.
Good morning, Joe.
We've been talking about the BLS and the employment numbers all morning long. Sometimes I know you get a chance to tune in. I want to bring up a chart. I hope you can see it, or else I'll describe it to you. This is the response rate over the last 10, 12 years for the BLS, the household survey. It's dropped from 90% or so on time down to 60 and sometimes even lower. It's arguably the most important number we get about the economy. Yesterday, we had Wharton Professor Jeremy Siegel on. Just bear with me, Mr. President, and listen to this. I know you're familiar with Wharton, but unsolicited, this is what Jeremy Siegel said yesterday about the numbers.
I'm not going to let the BLS off the hook. I mean, you talk about how to fix it. You don't make these questionnaires mandatory and give them a time limit to fill it out. I mean, I think the response rate's down to 60%. I mean, that's unacceptable for the most important statistic that we have. It's almost like we're sending them out, fill it out when you can. We know you like to go to the beach in the summer, so it might be a little bit late. This is just not acceptable today. We need that response rate has to go up. And when you make the biggest mistake in 50 years, why? Why wasn't there an explanation?
It's 258,000 less in 2 months. That was the biggest revision since 1968, Mr. President. So we're in the internet age. We still can't get any instant data. We're still using snail mail to get the responses back. It is the government, after all. Antiquated, no doubt, and certainly suboptimal, but rigged? Where do you get the notion that it's rigged, or do you have any evidence there?
It is antiquated, but it's also very political. And, I had an election recently where I did very well, won every swing state, won the popular vote, won everything, all right? Won all the counties. It's, I think, 87% of the counties were Republican up. That's never happened before. And yet I had to go through hell. And just days before the election, they put out numbers that it was like the country was on fire. It was doing so well. And then they did a revision about 2 weeks later, and the revision was down by almost 900,000 jobs. You remember that? And I said, what would have happened? What would have happened if I lost? Think of it. I would have said... They gave phony numbers, and then they revised them a week and a half later.
Those were benchmark numbers, though, Mr. President. That happens. They do that. They do that twice a year, and it reconciles the monthly figures with, like, the overall numbers. And it was a big number, and obviously...
But the numbers were rigged. The numbers were rigged. Biden wasn't doing well. He was doing poorly. They announced these phenomenal numbers 2 days before the election, and a little bit before that, always these great numbers, and you knew it wasn't doing well. You knew prices were through the roof and inflation was terrible. The whole thing was bad. But think of it. Then they did the biggest revision, I think, in history of almost 900,000 jobs. And it turned out to be more than that because later on they did another revision. And so they gave phony numbers in order to win the election. After I won the election, I said too big to rig. But after I won the election, then they announced a downward number, in other words, to bring them back to reality. And I said, wow, supposing I would have lost, I would have blamed that, and people would have said I was a conspiracy theorist. It's crazy.
Elaine Chao was on yesterday, and I know, she was, I think she was Labor Secretary for 8 years under Bush II, and she was your Transportation Secretary as well. And she said, the commissioner...
Remember, the reason why he's doing this is because he wants to ease the fears of the market, okay? You don't go on CNBC unless you want to do that. That is the express purpose of going on CNBC. Now, Trump is perhaps the worst person to go and do that because he's virtually incapable of easing people, especially like when the role here requires clarity, the role here requires honesty, and even Trump's appearance on his own is just a reflection of the desperation that the administration feels, and he's a loose cannon. Well, let's hear it.
Doesn't really even get involved with the actual minutia of putting all these things together. And there's no way that it could have been, that she could have chosen to rig these numbers to make them look bad. And these are statistical changes based on this antiquated system. And it's just a
Wait, you said he gets no pushback in the media? Dude, this is the last place where he would get pushback. Are you kidding me? These guys are not in it to make a name for themselves. They're not journalists. They're literally there to be like, please don't say anything stupid so that like the markets don't plummet. Please, 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 please. That's it. They're having this conversation because they're like, his goal here is to just like navigate the conversation to make Donald Trump come across as reasonable so that people don't panic.
A big leap to go to rigged. And then it also, Mr. President, it makes anyone you pick is going to be, critics are going to say, hey, he's picking a guy that's going to give him or a gal that's giving him the numbers that he wants. So it undermines confidence in the system to some extent. You had, according to many people, all the rights in the world to try to replace a commissioner when it's hasn't gotten any better. But that is maybe a bridge too far, according to most people.
Well, I think when somebody says the commissioner is not involved, I don't want to get into any arguments with anybody. Why should I? She's a very nice woman.
Exactly.
But when they say that that nobody was involved, that it wasn't political, give me a break. Look, before the election, I had this massive, massive outflow of beauty for Biden. I mean, he didn't know he was alive. And for Biden, the economy was roaring. It was a beautiful thing. And I said, there's no way this is happening. It's going the opposite direction. And 2 weeks later, they said I was right. But even if you look at the original, the ones from the other day, the numbers were very timid. And then they announced something that made them even more timid on top of it. On sort of a reporting day, I don't know why, it just seemed a little bit more important than most times when they announced these numbers.
We talked earlier that the unemployment rate is still low. It's 4.2%.
It's fine. I'm not
and
saying
tariffs,
earth-shattering.
but
I will say this. The numbers before the election were earth-shattering. I'm not saying these were earth-shattering, but then they announced a couple of 100,000 to make it look a little bit worse from, months before. I said, where did those numbers come from? So
for as much as you want
to, it's a highly political situation. It's totally rigged. Smart people know it. People with common sense know it. And a lot of people to keep their head under the cover.
See, I told you. His job is to make Trump come across as coherent, make Trump come across as reasonable so that people don't panic sell or some shit. The issue is Trump is an unstoppable force. You feel me? So how are you going to make that motherfucker look reasonable when the very nature of his call here, the very reason why he's calling CNBC is because he's panicking.
Let's move on to this. Which number do you believe at this point? Because if you noticed, suddenly the chances of what you've wanted for months and argued for
Trump is literally like, I'm gonna molest the money. I love money molestation. Money, money, money. There's nothing you can do about it. And the guy's like, please don't do that. Don't say that. Mr. President, let's move on to how you hate molesting the money. He's like, nope, I love diddling the money. I love it. It's my favorite thing. They let you do it. They let you grab it by the... Believe it, folks, I won't stop. They call me the Epstein of the money. That's crazy. That's a twofer.
Months, the chances of a rate cut soared.
Meanwhile, you should stop talking about the Epstein thing. Don't do it. Don't talk about it. Don't talk about Epstein.
Because of these numbers. Do you not believe the current numbers? Because they're playing right into what you want the Fed and Jay Powell to do. They're not horrible, as you said, but, perhaps with the tariffs, some businesses delayed some spending. Some consumers may have been less certain about the future. So maybe we're seeing a slight slowdown in labor, but you're going to get exactly what you want.
Maybe there's a little bit of concern. Maybe there's a slight slowdown, perhaps. But maybe it's not so bad, right? Come on, just say it's not as bad. America's hot, right? Come on. Look, I'm going to run it again. Look.
Perhaps with the tariffs, some businesses delayed some spending. Some consumers may have been less certain about the future. So maybe we're seeing a slight slowdown in labor, but you're going to get exactly what you want based on these numbers. Which ones do you believe? Do you not believe the revised numbers either?
It's not what I want. I don't want that. I wanted it a year.
I don't want those numbers. Dog, you're the president. Like, this is supposed to be an independent investigation. Like, this is supposed to accurately reflect the reality of the labor market. What you want has no basis here. I mean, you could fix it, I guess, theoretically. It is within your powers. But the real issue is not that the labor market is not looking great. The real issue is he doesn't give a about that. It just makes him look bad.
I wanted it a long time ago. Jay Powell is highly political, and I think, I call him too late. Jerome, too late. Powell, he's too late. He's too late always. He always has been, except when he came to lowering interest rates before the election. That he did. He worked that out.
Who would you replace him with? I know you watch the show occasionally, and we had an extended interview with one of the prospective replacements, Kevin Warsh. Were you watching that day? Or
I was. He's very good. He's very good. He's very good. Sometimes they're all very.
He sounds sleepy. He just sounds angry, resentful, sleepy, in a panic state.
Good until you put them in there, and then they don't do so good. But a lot of them, I think he's a very good guy. I think I say Kevin and Kevin. Both Kevins are very good, and there are other people that are very good too. But
Kevin's a lot of Karens. I don't know if that's good.
A lot of times they're very good. Like this character that we have in there now, Jerome Too Late Bell. He was very good. He said, "Sir, I'll keep interest rates so low. I'm a low interest rate person, sir." You could hardly hear him talking over the desk.
Is Warsh
somebody that worked for me?
Wait, he's doing voices. He's doing voices, sir. Yo, this is crazy.
He was a big fan of his. Not a fan of his. He hardly knew him, but he wanted him so badly. I did somebody a favor. I put him in there. No, he's too late. He's too late. That name will stick to him.
Can you handicap it at all? Who you're, or you won't know? When will you know? And when will you announce it?
I think the two Kevins are doing well, and I have two other people that are doing well. Look, it's in the end there are numerous people that are qualified. Everyone on your phone right now, in terms of at your beautiful studio, would be very qualified.
I think he's talking about Jamie Dimon. Maybe, I don't know Who did Trump do a favor by appointing Jerome Powell? I did somebody a favor by putting him there. It turns out he's terrible, terrible, terrible.
You guys are better than most of the people that do it for a living. But I watched a lot, actually. No, I think that it'll be one of four people.
Are the other two names? I'm
going to make the decision soon. And don't forget, we have somebody that left early, which was a pleasant surprise. We have a woman that left early. She announced 2 days ago that she's leaving, and I'm going to be announcing that very shortly, too. That will be, most likely it'll be for the 4 months, for the short period of time. But a lot of people say that when you do that, why don't you just pick the person who's going to head up the Fed? That's a possibility, too.
Looked like you were going to have a meeting, and people were talking about it with President Xi, and then you went out of your way to kind of say other people are saying, I think you even called it fake news or something.
Banks discriminated against me after I was president. What? They debanked me. I do not believe that.
It looked like you were indicating that you were unhappy or that talks had broken down, and we've had a couple of frameworks or some positive moves. And China, you've had a lot of success with other countries. China is a big deal and a big, not quite the elephant in the room, but certainly an important trading partner. Where does that stand? Will there be a meeting between you and President Xi? Anything planned at this point? What's the sticking point now, and how optimistic are you that we get a comprehensive deal?
Well, I can have a meeting. We have a very good relationship, but I didn't call for the meeting. He called for the meeting. So the fake news announced Donald Trump wants a meeting with China. No, I didn't want it. No, he asked for a meeting, and I'll end up having a meeting before the end of the year, most likely, if we make a deal.
It's so funny because objectively wrong, okay? Especially because, like, you can tell it's wrong because Donald Trump is the only party that has lowered tariffs in the process after literally increasing it for no reason whatsoever. This is perhaps the most embarrassing aspect of his like tariffs regime, where he's like, "That's right, I wanted to destroy China, and then I decided I'm gonna save China." When Donald Trump wants you to know something, just know that it's the opposite. Okay, the truth is the exact opposite. When Donald Trump says like, "I never called she called me first," know that it's probably the opposite.
If we don't make a deal, I'm not going to have a meeting. I mean, what's the purpose of meeting if we're not going to make a deal? But we're getting very close to a deal. We're getting along with China very well. I will tell you, you had a point when I had 145% tariffs on. I put in for fentanyl. I actually said to people, "Where are we now with China?" By the way, because I kept adding more and more. They said, "Sir, you're up to 145%. I said, "You got to be kidding." So I sort of had to bring it down a little bit. But when
Dude, what? Dude. What? What? You just said you were slapping erroneous tariffs on America's largest trading partner? Dude. I'm just being the president. What the Oh my God. He's like, I don't know. One day I said 50. Next day I said 100. Why not 150? What the I mean, this is that we say about Trump. You're not supposed to admit it, dude. This is like what I would say. I'd be like, wow, it kind of feels like Donald Trump is just like making it up as it goes along. As he goes along, just adding random numbers onto a pile. He's like, yep, it just made it up on the spot. It was great. Believe me. I made it up so much I forgot what I made up. And then people told me, Mr. President, you're at 145%. I said, wow, I'm so crazy. I love money molestation. I won't let you keep a bag. I will do everything in my power. If this were a CEO of a public corporation, they would be removed by the board. Oh yeah. That's so awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, who cares, dude? Whatever. Well, what are you going to do? I can't believe he's on CNBC too. It's like not even, again, and I can't stress this enough. This isn't Sean Hannity. These are the mother who are like slammed to the TVs. These are dudes with Bloomberg terminals listening in intently to see what kind of decisions they must make. He just straight, I'm going to run it again.
It's announced Donald Trump wants a meeting with China. No, I didn't want it. No, he asked for a meeting, and I'm not going to have a meeting. I mean, what's the purpose of meeting if we're not going to make a deal? You had a point when I had 145% tariffs on. I put in for fentanyl. I actually said to people, "Where are we now with China?" By the way, because I kept adding more and more. They said, "Sir, you're up to 145%. I said, "You got to be kidding." So I sort of had to bring it down a little bit. But when they
You gotta be kidding. Wow, I'm crazy. Lost track of the tariffs. Little old me did that.
was up to 145%, meaning we were doing zero business with China. China was collapsing. I don't know if you know that. You haven't reported it if you do. But China was collapsing.
China was collapsing. It was over. It was one step removed from collapsing. Oh, any minute, China was collapsing, and I saved it. I saved China.
China is very reliant on the United States. My relationship with him is very good. I think we'll make a good deal. It's not imperative, but I think we're going to make a good deal. But no, they had a thing that Donald Trump really wanted to go there. No, I don't. It's a 19-hour flight. It's a long flight. But at some point in the not-too-distant future, I will. And just to end this conversation in China, I have a very good relationship with President Xi. Always had, other than the COVID moment where I was very angry with him and essentially didn't want to talk to him, frankly, because, it did come out of Wuhan, in all fairness, which I was saying from the day one. I was saying I knew exactly where it came from. But that did interfere with the relationship. But no, I've had a great relationship with President Xi. We respect him a lot. They respect us a lot. They didn't respect Biden. They thought he was a numbskull. They couldn't believe he was the president.
So I don't get it. If China did COVID, wouldn't that imply that they respect you way less than Biden? Like if China did COVID and it wasn't just like, if it was like a biochemical attack, like clearly they don't respect you at all then. They did it when you were president. We're slapping a 50% tariff on coffee producer that supplies 1/3 of America's coffee consumption. We produce maybe 0.3% of our yearly coffee consumption domestically. Now these beans Trump is pricing Americans out of being able to afford are going to China. China welcomes 183 Brazil coffee sellers in the wake of U.S. tariffs. Can somebody explain the logic here in terms of market protectionism and spurring manufacturing to slap blanket 50% tariffs on Brazil, including on a crop we don't and likely can't harvest at scale here? Yeah, as I've said before, coffee is pretty much region locked. So there's not really anything you can do about it unless you would just like wait for climate change to do its thing. I don't know. It's a very strange thing to do. You don't understand. He wants to fight woke by removing the caffeine supply. I'm giving up coffee until Brazil is a desert. I know people who spend years growing a coffee plant under hydroponics and they get enough coffee. They get enough for one pot of coffee, maybe. Yeah, I mean, look, this is probably the worst thing he's done to me directly. As you guys know, I guzzled that shit. But I guess like Donald Trump wants every American to just only drink energy drinks or something, you know? Maybe that's the goal here. I don't know. But this hurts me. Local roasters over chain coffee every time. Dog, what the are you talking about? Where do you think local roasters get their beans from? What are you saying? I make my own espresso. Give me that shade-grown coffee. What do you think it means when I say coffee bean production is region locked? America happens to be, with some exceptions, outside of that region. Do you think the roasters are just also growing the coffee bean in their backyard? Region locked, just use a VPN. Also, this kind of wide sweeping blanket tariff on coffee beans is unironically going to hurt small local roasters way harder than Starbucks. Like Starbucks is cooked too. Make no mistake. But if Starbucks is cooked, then local roasters are cooked tenfold. Oh, also this happened, which was really funny, but not great. White House orders NASA to destroy satellite used for monitoring climate change, according to NPR. The censorship campaign goes to space. I guess if you can't see the climate change, then it isn't changing. The stupidity is exquisite. And like the operation for these satellites is not even that expensive in the grand scheme of things. Like this is important. Not just for measuring climate change. We have to know these things. It's important for farmers, for example. It's so like, did someone not inform Donald Trump about the negative consequences of this? Yeah, these are satellites that are used for agriculture. It's already up there. And I think like the yearly cost is like 17 mil or something, which is nothing for the government. You understand? It is kind of cool. Someone said like Mao with the sparrows. I was going to say, it is kind of cool to see in 2025, like that you would hear happening in like socialist developing states, you know, people making like ginormous mistakes, like gigantic mistakes at a time when they were like desperate and they wanted to solve the issue of famine. But then they ended up just like agricultural production for decades, you know. It's cool to see that in 2025 in the United States of America, we've moved beyond it. And those socialist states or former socialist states have actually moved beyond the issue of famine. Like they fixed it, they solved it. But Donald Trump is just doing it for the fun, for absolutely no discernible reason. Very cool. This is cool. This is history unfolding, I guess. American Lysenkoism 2025. No, it's great. It does truly feel like he's just trying to destroy America. I'm not kidding. Because some of this stuff doesn't make any sense. Like you love the fossil fuel industry, but like, and you want to say climate change is fake. You're worried that like China is now officially the domineering force in renewable energy, right? You can't move in that direction. You don't want to waste any time, resources on R&D for renewables, even though it's literally the future. But even then, this doesn't make any sense. This doesn't make sense at all. This is such a weird development. Meanwhile, in Asia, Pakistani and Chinese researchers say they've developed a new hybrid rice seed aimed at increasing yields and climate change resistance. Woke, gay. Yeah, meanwhile, the leader of the free world is on CNBC being like, I don't know how many tariffs I put on China. They're weak. They're weak. They love me.
United States, and neither can anyone else let that happen.
Mr. President, on a different topic, the Wall Street Journal is reporting that you're prepping an order that they say would punish banks that discriminate against conservatives, including potentially Bank of America. I'm going to be actually talking to Brian Moynihan here later today. Can you tell us about that executive order? What's in that? And what do you think the banks have done?
Well, they did discriminate. I had J.P. Morgan Chase. I had hundreds of millions of dollars in cash. I could see if they want to, if they want to do something bad because you don't have any money and you defaulted and they took people out. But I'll give you me as an example. I had hundreds of millions. I had many, many accounts loaded up with cash. I was loaded up with cash, and they told me, I'm sorry, sir, we can't have you. You have 20 days to get out. I said, you got to be kidding. I've been with you for 35, 40 years. They said, and I mean, I had all this. I didn't know what to do with it. And I went to, and you could ask him. Maybe he's not going to admit it. So I said, I was informed by my people that we have to get out of Chase Manhattan. That's Jamie and J.P. Morgan Chase. So I said, I can't believe it. Well, I was never in this situation before. I've never had anything like it. And it's not like, gee, you defaulted on a loan.
You have. You have 7 times, 7 bankruptcies. So you've definitely been in a situation far worse than this.
Understand that. That's different. But there's no default. I mean, there's nothing but cash. I have a really great company. And then what happens is I call up Bank of America routinely because when I was president, this was after I got out, by the way, I call up Bank.
Oh, also, attorney for Sean Diddy Combs. It's my understanding that we've reached out and had conversations about a pardon.
Have they had conversations with the Trump administration?
Yes.
It's like boom, 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 boom. Diddy pardon, Ghislaine pardon. We're nuking the satellites that help farmers figure out agricultural output. Every moment of every day is another unique opportunity for Trump to thing up. Okay.
Of America routinely. And I speak to him, and I speak to a couple of people, and they have zero interest. Brian was kissing my ass when I was president, and when I called him after I was president to deposit $1 billion plus and a lot of other things, more importantly to open accounts, which banks always like. They like accounts because they get interest-free, the overnights and things. There are a lot of reasons for it, but they like accounts. I had hundreds of accounts. And he said, we can't do it. No, we can't do it. So I went to another one. I ended up going to small banks all over the place. I mean, I was putting 10 million here, 10 million there, did 5 million, 10 million, 12 million. I have them all over the place, the craziest thing. And it's lucky I even had them. They were doing me a favor. And that's because the banks discriminated against me very badly. And I was very good to the banks. I had the greatest economy in the history of our country when I was president. And by the way, our economy now will blow that away.
I didn't realize he went on Squawk Box and went on, dude. Like there's like 4 more videos like this.
But our economy now, because we're a rich country again, because of our trade deals, we've become a rich country again. But no, they totally discriminate against, I think me maybe even more, but they discriminate against many conservatives. I told that story.
Like I want to click away and do something else, but it's fire. Like he is moaning about the funniest I can't look away.
And sitting around tables with other people that were conservative or Trump supporters. I think the word might be Trump supporters more than conservative. And I believe what they did is they went to the regulators. Banks are not afraid of anything but a regulator. They're regulators and their wives. They're more afraid of their wives than the regulators. But the group they're really afraid of is bank regulators. And I believe that Biden or Kamala, and I don't think they're smart enough to do it, but the people that are surrounding the beautiful Resolute desk the high IQ people that are radical left. I believe they told the banking commission, the bankers, that the banking regulators, do everything you can to destroy Trump. And that's what they did. And guess what? I'm president. How did that happen?
Yeah, Mr. President, you've talked about...
He's like a kid. Guess what? I'm president. How did that happen?
You want success, not retribution. The Justice Department now tapping a grand jury to look into the intelligence community's assessment of what was happening with Russia. Is that you have nothing to do with directing the Justice Department?
No, I have nothing to do. Pam is doing a great job. I have nothing to do with it. I will tell you this. They deserve it. I was happy to hear it. I actually read it just like you did. I have nothing to do with it. But what they did in the election, what they did in even the last election, but it was too big to rig. But what they did in the 2020 election is grotesque. I mean, that was a rigged election, 100%.
Okay, we can't relitigate that. We can't relitigate that.
No, we're back to rigging again. Well, you can use it because everyone knows.
Yeah, we
You know what? A year ago, you would have been upset if I said it. Today, it's different. I say it all the time.
Yeah, because you're the president and he's the market man, and your word has tremendous impact in the one area that he does care about. Come on, man, just click this Hassan versus Asmongold rap battle by the channel Swamp Cheeks. I would rather click a button that launches me directly into the sun than click this video.
It was a rigged election. It was 100% rigged.
We can't relitigate because
and I'm sure that's going to be brought up
independent sources,
too.
Even your Justice Department. But then I'm bringing up Bill Barr. But even they decided that there were things that happened, but nothing that would have swayed it.
Well, they were wrong, and Bill Barr was wrong, and Bill Barr didn't investigate, and he should have. And why didn't Bill Barr give why didn't he give the Derma report?
It's so funny. He literally knew. He literally knew. I'm bringing up Bill Barr.
Why didn't he give that report? The stuff that's in there, that's all this stuff is coming out of it. Why didn't he give it earlier? I mean, why did it take so long to do it? And why didn't he give it? Why didn't they announce it earlier? Because it morphed. What happened is it morphed into the Biden administration, and the Biden administration buried it. So it's too bad.
How about Texas? Now we're going to do mid-year or midterm gerrymandering based on that's going to be a quid pro quo or something with in blue states now, Mr. President. Did you?
Well, they did it to us. Those blue states that you're talking about. Somebody gave a good example. In Massachusetts, I think 41% of the vote. It's a very blue state, and yet it's got 100% of Congress, 100%. So I got 41% or something, and yet 100% of Congress in Massachusetts. No, it shouldn't be that way. We should have a couple of Congress people, but we have none. And think of this, 100%. In Illinois, where you have probably the dumbest of all governors, Illinois, that guy is really the business is flowing out of his state. It's terrible. It's a terrible thing that Pritzker's doing. He was the black sheep of the family. They threw him out of the business. But in Illinois, what's happened is terrible, what they're doing. And you notice they go to Illinois for safety, but that's all gerrymandered. California's gerrymandered. We should have many more seats in Congress in California. It's all gerrymandered. And we have an opportunity in Texas to pick up 5 seats. We have a really good governor, and we have good people in Texas. And I won Texas. I got the highest vote in the history of Texas, as you probably know. And we are entitled to 5 more seats.
I don't know. I have to check on that, and they expect.
Check it. Why don't you check it, Brian?
The fact checkers expect us to check everything you say on the phone.
I want you to
but
check
for 4 years, those fact checkers
didn't
fact check anything that was said about.
Oh my God! Yeah, the Biden. I mean,
we don't need to relitigate that either, but they expect fact checking
Joe, why don't
immediately.
you check it, okay? Because I'd like you to. I got the highest vote in the history of Texas, okay? By a lot.
Mr. President, can I ask you back to the economy and just on some of the things we've seen with the jobs report, the weakness in those numbers that came out last week. People are trying to figure out where the weakness is coming from. Part of it may be because of immigration. Now, people voted you into office because they were concerned about immigration.
Why are they so scared of this guy? Because he could just be like, I'm doing I'm doing a 700% tariff on everyone, like on this phone call, and then cause the markets to plummet because he's a dangerous, unstable man who has the capacity to molest the money. He's so powerful. These guys only care about one thing, markets being green, okay? That's it, nothing else. The entire world could be collapsing. And as long as there is like confidence in the American stock market, confidence in like all the companies, and people keep, I don't know, magically deciding that things are going great for some reason, in spite of all evidence that points to the contrary, these guys will be like, Mr. President, I will suck your green, okay? I will suck it hard. Thank you. Biden sucks. He's old. He's decrepit. Do you want me to say that? Do you want me to say that? Do you want me to say something about Biden? I'll say it.
Policy in this country. But if you look at the jobs
Please don't molest the money further.
Report last week, it did show a 1.7 million drop off of foreign-born workers from March to July. And
that's a great number, by the way. That's a great number because it means we're putting Americans to work.
Well, the problem is immigrants have accounted for more than half of the U.S. workforce growth over the last 3 years. And so you wonder if that gets into an issue. And I know you've spoken with farmers who have had concerns about being able to find temporary workers there.
Right.
And I think their pleas have kind of hit you in a way where you looked at that a little differently.
Yeah, as in you don't care about the humanity of these people, but the humans that you do care about are capital owners, aka farm owners, who came up to you and were like, dude, what are you doing? People don't want to come to work. People are too scared to come to work. And you're the agribusiness. And Trump was like, all right, well, let some of the Mexican slaves continue working, which he is literally going to say.
Well, I think this. We're getting the criminals out of our country because they had an open border policy because they were fools, and they allowed people from prisons and gang members and drug dealers into our country. We're getting the criminals out of our country by the thousands, and they're taken. We have murderers. We have people that are mentally insane. They come out of insane asylums and psych wards, and they come out of places that you don't want to know about. You would not like to see it. But they dumped everybody in our country, from the Congo in Africa to all over South America. They dumped millions of people into our country that are dangerous people, and I'm getting them out. I'm working with the farmers, however, and the farmers have been great. I also got the highest vote for farmers, I think, that anybody's ever gotten. And I take care of the farmers. I love the farmers. They're a very important part of this country. And we're not going to do anything to hurt the farmers, and we're working on that, and we're going to be...
Bro, he sounds like Austin doing a Trump voice.
Coming out with rules and regulations. I mean, you'll see a farmer with the same person working for him for 20 years. The person's even paying taxes and other things. And we're looking for the criminals, the people that murdered. You know, we have 11,888 people that came into our country under Biden, with our great czar, a border czar. She never called
Gambala.
one. You know, she never called. She was a border czar. She never went to the border, and she never made one call.
She literally went to Guatemala. She did straight up fly to Guatemala to say, do not come to the
Border Patrol. You know, other than that, she did a great job. But they had hundreds of people that were murderers, 11,888 murders, 50% of which murdered more than one person in our country. We've already gotten a lot of them out, and some of them are so dangerous we don't want to bring them back. We want to put them in our own prison because we don't want them coming back. But they allowed 11,888 murderers, many of which murdered more than one, into our population, and we're getting them out.
Wait, he also admits why some people don't get deported. He's admitting that the murderers that he's deporting have the capacity to come back into the United States. Wait, I mean, all the numbers he just said are made up, but that's literally the point. That's why some people don't get deported even after doing like a heinous crime, because there's no guarantee that they're going to, they're not going to be freed in the country that they sent back to. That's the that's a criminal justice system.
I just want to hear you clearly. You're saying the people who have been here for years and who have been even paying taxes, you're going to look at them,
President Trump, people love tariffs
very differently, and maybe they belong here in the workforce?
I want to work with them, and in some cases we're sending them back to their country with a pass back in legally, and we're doing things that are very difficult to do and very complex, but it works really well. We're sending them back, and then they're schooling, they're learning, they're coming in legally. We have a lot of that going on, but we're taking care of our farmers. We can't let our farmers not have anybody.
This is new.
These.
Why do you have to send them back then? Why don't you just process them here? It's like, no, I love deportations. I love them so much. I got to do a little bit. I got to do some deportations. Believe it. It's got to happen. It's going to happen. Believe it. That's why I'm doing it. I'm doing a little bit of deportation and then a little bit of reportation. We're porting them back in after we port them out. Deport and then report.
These people, you can't replace them very easily. People that live in the inner city are not doing that work. They're just not doing that work. And they've tried. We've tried. Everybody tried. They don't do it. These people do it naturally. I said, what happens if they get it to a farmer the other day? What happens if they get a bad back? He said, they don't get a bad back, sir, because if they get a bad back, they die. I said,
this is so psychotic. We covered this earlier, but I wanted to run it again. But it is such an insane thing to say. It's like the Mexican natural farmer, big build. And when they get a bad back, we kill them, we shoot them, we bring them to the glue factory.
That's interesting, isn't it? These are very, in many ways, they're very, very special people. Okay, go ahead.
No, okay, so.
Okay, go ahead. All right.
Here we go. So you did get the highest number of votes in Texas, so that's true. But when you were talking about,
then you don't have to say anything more, Joe.
I got to say this.
No, don't say anything more. Don't qualify it by saying. No, I got the highest number of votes.
You did.
In the history
I'm moving
of
on.
Texas.
I'm moving on to your claim that revision helped Biden hurt you for the 800,000. It was in August. There was still plenty of time for voters to see that those weren't real jobs.
After the election in November, I believe it was in November.
No, this was before the election. It was. He's talking about the revisions that took place before the election, which you literally used as a way to attack Biden before the election. He's shouting because he's getting fact checked.
August.
And this guy doesn't want to do it. He literally was like, let's not even touch that because I'm going to be forced to fact check you. He said it. He did not want to do this fact check. He's like, oh, let's not talk about that then, because if we do, then I have to go in and I have to correct you. And he doesn't want to do it. He does not want to do this fact check. Okay. And Trump is literally like, don't do it. Don't say it. Don't say it, Joe. If you say it, I'll fart you. What are you, Lithuanian? I'm sending you to Estonia. That's where we're at. What is this? Quiet as a mouse. This is so funny.
There was a massive revision downward on
the
jobs.
first one, the 800,000 or 900,000, I think, was in August, and then later it came out in March of 2025. It went to 598, not 818. But the original one.
Listen, 598. But there were other revisions downward from prior to the election because the numbers were rigged. Okay, and as you said, the number. Look, you take a look after the election. How many revisions downward there were? But let's get back to Texas because you said you were going to say something else. I got the highest vote in the history of Texas, a record that they say won't be beaten unless I run again.
Are you going to run again?
No,
Constitution
probably not.
Okay.
Probably not.
And you're not going to fire Jay Powell. We'll go all talk about all the stuff that.
Hey, Becky, I'd like to run. I have the best poll numbers I've ever had. You know why? Because people love the tariffs, and they love the trade deal, and they love that countries, and they love that foreign countries aren't ripping us off anymore. For years, they ripped us off, friend and foe. And the friend was worse.
Overall poll numbers, you don't have the best you ever had in overall poll numbers. You do.
What? He said what? Gaia, what are you doing? What are you doing? No, you can't get up. You can't get up. You can't. Don't do that. Don't try to jump on me. What? I'm going to run it again.
Overall poll numbers, you don't know.
And the friend was worse.
Overall
What?
poll numbers, you don't have the best you ever had in overall poll numbers. You do. I'd say I did one of those.
I have the best. I have the best poll
among
numbers I've ever
Republicans.
had.
Among
I have
Republicans.
poll numbers where I'm 71%.
What? Dude. What?
I have the best poll numbers. Look,
Those are among Republicans. You know you've got.
No. Among Republicans, I'm at 94 and 95%. No, I'm talking about generally. I have the.
There is not a single poll that says he has 71% approval. What is he talking about? Does someone show him like a poll where he has 74% approval among Republicans or something, which is like very low? What is this guy saying? Does he mean like a Twitter poll or something? Like Gunther Eagleman. How many of us love the president? Show in this poll. And he's like, he got 74% of the people.
Let me put it this way. There was a gentleman on Harry Emden yesterday on CNN, and he went crazy over
Oh, holy Toledo.
how well Trump was doing. Now, you don't put that on because I think CBS is a shade. Actually, CNN's a shade better than NBC. I think NBC is probably the worst of them all. But if you check CNN tomorrow, watch Harry Emden, and you'll see
Harry Emden. Harry Emden. Gaia, enough. No, I can't play with you yet, baby. This is crazy. She's trying to play. Gaia, place. Harry Emden.
about the numbers, but that's okay. We have to defend ourselves, Joe.
I know, but there are other. They can cite. Your haters cite polls that have you down in the 30s, Mr. President. And,
yeah, but they're fake polls, Joe. I had a lot of fake polls. You also have me in the 70s.
No, that's not real. What? Who? What is he talking about? Does anyone know what poll he's talking about? Which poll did Harry Emden point to? It was Gunther Eagleman. Shut up. No, you're just joking. I just made that up. There's no way that he was pointing to a Gunther Eagleman like Twitter poll or something.
I have fake polls. Fox gives me terrible polls all the time. You know, they do nothing, but I've never had a good poll with Fox. And then I win an election and I go through the roof. Because look, I won every swing state. Did I not? I won every swing state. Andrew, I won the popular vote by millions of votes. Even though they tried like hell to cheat, I won by millions of votes.
47% of Republicans would still support Trump, even if he were linked to Epstein's sex activities, according to Ledger. Now that's a good poll. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think this one surprised me a bit because of all of these complaints online going after Trump and the Epstein files. You might think,
yeah, this is from like 2 weeks ago or something, but
they're going up. Republicans who approve of Trump. Look at our CNN poll. The prior.
Yeah, that's Republicans. Okay. What's the
with Republicans? How about Quinnipiac? The prior poll, 87% approve of Republicans. This week out, 90% with Republicans. If anything, Donald Trump's approval rating has gone up since this whole Epstein saga started. He is at the apex or close there too in terms of his popularity.
Yeah, with Republican voters, man. That's not. There is no point that he has 70% approval ratings. I think he means disapproval. Maybe someone just like flipped the numbers or something. Harry Emden, he's the good guy. He's the guy.
I won the counties and all of the counties. I won 2,750 to 502.
Wait, is this what it is?
Is arguably the most influential this century and probably as well dating back a good portion of the last century as well.
That's not a good thing, Rapid Response 47. That's not. It's true. He is the most influential president of this century. He has single-handedly changed American politics. I said this before the election. We are now living in Trump's universe. We're living in Trump land. We're living in Trump politics. Even if he lost, he would have forever changed the Republican Party. But I don't think he understands. This is not like a good thing. This is...
Like it, lump it. Trump is remaking in the United States of America. Let's talk about tariffs first, right? There's all this talk that Donald Trump always chickens out when it comes to tariffs.
Has anyone been able to find what the poll he was what the poll Trump was talking about? Because I really want to know.
No tacos for Trump. The effective tariff rate, get this, it's 18%, the highest since the FDR administration in the 1930s, up from, get this, just 2% last year. From just 2% last year, we're talking about a level, an effective tariff rate level, get this, 9 times as high this year than last year. But it's not just on tariffs, which of course Donald Trump ran on, in which you're seeing a tremendously influential presidency. What about...
Yeah, it's like nukes were very influential on Japan. Yeah, doesn't mean it's good.
About immigration, of course, Trump ran and has always run on a very hawkish immigration platform. Get this, 2025 net migration in the United States down at least 60% from last year. In fact, we may be heading for the first time in at least 50 years in which we have net negative migration into the United States. And last year, of course, in 2024...
People are leaving. Why is this a good thing? Why would anybody celebrate this? Oh my God, we're so dumb. Dude, we're so dumb. This is such a stupid country. What do you say? What do you do? You know?
The net migration in the U.S. was 2.8 million. This year, we might be talking about negative net migration. My goodness gracious. Now, of course, this is part of a larger story, as I was mentioning. We're talking about immigration, net migration. We're talking about the effective tariff rate. But get this, how is Donald Trump doing it? Well, he is signing a ton of executive orders. Get this, 180, the most in a year since...
Thank God he has the capacity to put that green line next to the 180 number, because otherwise I would not be able to pay attention to what number he's talking about. You know what I mean?
Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Oh, my goodness. You have to go back to the first half of the 20th century, the last century. And to make a comparison, Joe Biden signed, get this, just 77 during his entire first year. And we're only a little bit in August so far. And Donald Trump making history with 180 executive orders signed so far this year. So that's why I said that in my mind, Donald Trump is the most influential president of this century, and probably dating back a good portion of the last century. That is
nothing that he mentioned here could be read as like objectively good. Like,
is because he is remaking the country in terms of tariffs. He is remaking the country in terms of net migration, and he is remaking the country in terms of how much policy changes he's putting through in executive orders. As I said, it truly is history making. Love it, like it, or lump it.
They can't even say hate it. Oh yeah, U.S. could require up to $15,000 bonds for some tourist visas under pilot program. Washington, the U.S. could require bonds up to $15,000 for some tourist and business visas under a pilot program launching in 2 weeks, a government notice said on Monday. An effort that aims to crack down on visitors who overstay their visas. The program gives U.S. consular officers the discretion to impose bonds on visitors from countries with high rates of visa overstays, according to a Federal Register notice. Well, that's going to be good. We don't want you. If you're poor, don't come to America. You need at least $15,000. Yeah, you get your money back when you leave, but who the 15 grand? Who the has $15,000 to put down when they're coming into the United States of America? Like, you got the Olympics coming up. You know what I mean? You got like the World Cup coming up. That's psychotic. If a country, like I have 15 grand that I could put down, right? But if a country were like, oh, you can't come in unless you pay this country, unless you pay me $15,000 in a bond, I'd be like, okay, well, I guess I'm not coming. Like, I have the money and I'm still not going. You know what I mean? It's so stupid. There is 65 cents in my bank account. I have $54. I wouldn't even go to Japan if I had to pay 15 grand in a bond to get into Japan. Okay? Unless I was permanently leaving, let's be real. Then if I was going to be an illegal migrant in Japan, an illegal refugee, a refugee from America, I'm glad that we got net negative migration. Okay? People are leaving more than they're coming in. All right? That's one. We got tourism has taken a nosedive. It's kind of funny because like you see places like Spain or like European capitals where there's like people who are mad that like people keep coming. Like all these places that are propped up by tourism dollars are now offended or just like mad that tourists are coming to these areas. And Donald Trump heard that and was like, we should do that here. We should make sure no tourist comes into the country ever again. I saw it. They're spitting on our tourists like it's the West Bank. Only there is it allowed to spit on our big, beautiful Christian tourists. Only in the West Bank. When they do it, it's all right. When they do it in Barcelona, they're calling it. They're saying Barcelona. I call it Barcelona. They call it Barcelona. They're spitting on our tourists.
And I won the election in a landslide. And obviously, that's only, we're only 6 months in. But my poll numbers are better now, much better than during the election. And now part of that,
oh my God.
Part of that is,
oh my God. Senator Adam Schiff under federal criminal investigation for alleged mortgage fraud violations. Oh my God, I hope they arrest him. Oh my God, I hope he goes to prison. Oh my God, I hope he goes to prison. Oh, I hate him so much. Oh, yeah. Oh, hell yeah. Yeah, this is political. Sure, I don't care. Lock him up. Lock him up. He got, dude, he literally got, I know this is absolutely malicious. I know this is malicious. I know Trump is doing this out of pure malice. This motherfucker got like $6 million from AIPAC. Okay? Lock him up. Yes, he's my senator. Trump truth about Adam Schiff. I've always suspected Shifty Adam Schiff was a scam artist, and now I learn that Fannie Mae's Financial Crimes Division have concluded that Adam Schiff has engaged in a sustained pattern of possible mortgage fraud. Adam Schiff said his primary residence was in Maryland to get a cheaper mortgage and rip off America when he must live in California because he was a congressman from California. I always knew Adam Schiff was a crook. The fraud began with the refinance of his Maryland property on February 6, 2009, and continued through multiple transactions until the Maryland property was correctly designated as a second home on October 13th, 2020. Mortgage fraud is very serious and crooked. Adam Schiff, now a senator, needs to be brought to justice. Dude, mortgage fraud? You're a real estate developer. That's what you've done. Like always. This is the most says you moment. Donald Trump going after Barack Obama for trying to do a coup, and also simultaneously going after Adam Schiff for mortgage fraud. What's next? Going after Bill Clinton for pedophilia and being a Jeffrey Epstein affiliate? I see what you're doing there, sir. He's fixing the SEO. He's fixing the SEO, dude.
Because the Democrat Party is self-destructing. I mean, when you have low IQ people like Crockett, I wonder if she's any relationship to the late, great Davy Crockett, who was a great gentleman. What? I wonder if she's got any relation.
What? Bro, what is he saying? This makes no sense, dude.
To Davy Crockett, the great old Davy Crockett. But you have this woman Crockett. She's a very low IQ person. Somebody said the other day she's one of the leaders of the party. I said, you got to be kidding. The Democrats are lost. They have Trump derangement syndrome so bad that they can't walk. They can't talk. They don't know where they're going. Schumer is finished. Schumer, look, I watched him the other day. He's like, lost
Mr.
all
President,
of his confidence.
40%.
Mr. President, I have to fact check you. Davy Crockett died in the 17th century. Or not 17th, sorry. Mr. President, Davy Crockett died in the 19th century and was a white man. I have to fact check you, Mr. President. I'm so sorry. There's no relation to Jasmine Crockett and Davy Crockett.
Of the country has
no, he meant Jasmine Crockett. I wonder if she's related to the late great Davy Crockett. That's what he said.
So you're never going to get above 60 in any poll, and it's because 40% have TDS, and we know that. Mr. President, we used to do this every Tuesday. It was called Trump Tuesday. Maybe we can start. This is going to be the start of something again. But we appreciate all your time today, and hope to be able to continue this discussion on all these different issues in the not too distant future, if we could.
Joe, could I finish one thing?
Yes.
1 year ago, 1 year ago, our country was dead. Now we have.
That was hot. It's hot. It was dead. Now it's alive. It's hot.
Hottest country anywhere in the world by far. And that was told to me by every leader of NATO, which they do whatever I want. That was told to me by the...
He's like a child. He's like a kid. I do whatever I want. They love it. They love me. They can't say anything. They say, you're hot, Mr. President. You're so sexy.
King of Saudi Arabia, by the leaders of UAE, by the leader of Qatar, by many, many. We were a dead country 1 year ago. Today we're the hottest country anywhere in the world, and I'm very happy to help.
Mr. President, what kind of teeth, though, are in those investments? What kind of teeth are in those investments, meaning that would force the EU to make those investments? If they don't make those investments, what happens on the other side?
Well, then they pay tariffs of 35%. No, they brought down their tariffs. So they paid $600 billion, and because of that, I reduced their tariffs from 30% down to 15%. And a couple of countries came, how come EU is paying less than us? And I said, well, because they gave me $600 billion. And that's a gift. That's not like, a loan, by the way. That's not a loan that, 3 years comes up, we have to pay it back. There's nothing to pay back. They gave us $600 billion that we can invest in anything we want.
The deal that you
and nobody knows it, Becky. Nobody knows it because they don't know.
No, we have been trying to figure out the details on that, Mr. President. So
well,
we
there are no
appreciate the
details.
clarity on
the
that.
details are $600 billion to invest in anything I want. Anything.
Okay.
I can do anything I want with it. And the purpose was they've been, ripping us for so many years that it's time that they pay up, and they have to pay up. We couldn't afford to have the deficits. Look, I did something with Switzerland the other day. I spoke to their prime minister. The woman was nice, but she didn't want to listen. And they paid essentially no tariffs. And I said, we have a $41 billion deficit with you, madam. I didn't know her. I said, we have a $41 billion deficit. And you want to pay 1% tariffs. You wanted 1%. I said, you're not going to pay 1%. We lose. Because I view deficit as loss. You have some people. By the way, I think
pharmaceuticals are a big issue with Switzerland. I think.
Well, I'll go into pharmaceuticals. Yeah. They make a fortune with pharmaceuticals, and they make our pharmaceuticals in China and Ireland and everything else. And within the next week or so, we're going to be announcing tariffs on specifically. This is a separate class than the 15% tariffs on sort of everything. These are excluded classes, I call them. I like to call them excluded, like steel, aluminum, etc.
Right, the
well,
232.
We're going to be announcing on semiconductors and chips, which is a separate category, because we want them made in the United States. And by the way, they're being made in the United States. We have the biggest in the world, as you know, from Taiwan is coming over and spending $300 billion in Arizona, building the biggest plant in the world for chips and semiconductors. But on pharmaceuticals, we'll be putting a initially small tariff on pharmaceuticals. But in 1 year, 1.5 years maximum, it's going to go to 150%, and then it's going to go to 250% because we want pharmaceuticals made in our country. And that's not the CHIPS Act like Biden did because he didn't know what he was doing, where they gave billions of dollars to companies that had more money than they knew what to do with.
President Trump, can I ask you about something that you're doing that's opposite of the Biden administration, too? And that's the latest deal that you've announced.
Everything.
The latest deal, though, that you're announcing with India, you're upset with the trade deal there, especially because they're buying Russian oil. The Biden...
Yo, PBM left FaZe Clan? Wait, really? I thought it was a meme. Max actually left? Why did he leave? I thought it was I thought it was bait. That's usually, those guys love doing shit like that. They love, you are way too FaZe the... They're just redoing his room after the wars. It's a troll, I think. Yeah, there's no way.